So there are a number of reasons why I started doing this podcast. Number one is to offer some insight, some experience as it relates to my life to others in the hopes to, encourage people and to maybe educate to some degree to help folks make, life decisions in the hopes that those decisions will be very good ones and affect positively their quality of life. But then other times I'm doing podcasts where I just want to encourage people to continue on their life's journey and do the best that they can. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this podcast today. So we're talking about stress and we're talking about how it can affect you. Sometimes it can derail you. Other times it can ail you in terms of your body, your physical body. You can be ill during stress. And I just wanted to kind of take a podcast here or there and just encourage you to make the best decisions you can and to move forward. And today, we're going to talk about stress and how to successfully deal with stress and some ways that I found to disidentify or to detach from situations that can help you to make life decisions, deal with difficult situations from a different perspective, i.e., a perspective that doesn't include a lot of stress. So welcome in today to Rethink. Before I get started, I wanted to really thank a lot of you guys who are commenting and subscribing and following us. We get quite a bit of fan mail on the podcast side because there's a link down in the show notes that's, you can send us a text message. And many of you have sent us text messages. You're not leaving your name, so I can't give you guys shout outs, but thank you. I just wanted you to know that I do see them. And also on the YouTube side where you can leave comments and things like that. You guys have been very supportive. So thank you so much for your kind words. Please continue. Please continue to share our, content with your family members, loved ones, friends, associates, etc. Please continue to listen. Please continue to listen. If this is your first time, welcome aboard. Go ahead and subscribe now that you don't forget who we are and where we are. You've got a lot of content to catch up on. This is our fourth season. And so you've got 3 other seasons. You listen to this all the way through, but go back and binge those other 3 seasons because there's a lot of good information there. So today we're going to talk about how to overcome, or let's say this. We're going to title this, if we had to put a title on it, one way to successfully overcome stressful situations. Just one way that I'm going to promote today. And it's still a learning really for me because all of this, I take all of this in like a practice, just like yoga, that we are practicing with the hopes that at some point, we will get really good, never perfect, but really good at making decisions and dealing with life and understanding who we are at our core. So we're operating at our peak performance. So today, one way to overcome stressful situations. Now, it's no secret. Everyone deals with stress. I think some of us deal with it better than others. But we all deal with it. And stress affects us in different ways. Like I said before, sometimes people show it outwardly where people are going through a very difficult time because you can see it in their face and you can hear it in their voice and just kind of feel it in their vibration. Other times, people don't really show it. I'm one of those people where for years and probably still now, be very difficult situation, but I don't really have a outward show. Sometimes maybe, but for the most part, I'm relatively quiet. There's no cursing people out or road rage or these sorts of outward emotional acts. But that could be more dangerous in that, holding all of this emotion in could be doing my body or a person like me, our bodies, more damage. So over the years, I have cultivated different practices that help me to deal with stressful situations. Now, a practice is very different, because when I'm referring to the physical practice like yoga and meditation and mindfulness and breath work, But within the mental space, we're going to talk about today a way to detach and see stress from a distance and detach from situations where it's actually less stress on you mentally. And if it's less stress on you mentally, it's going to be less stress on you physically. I hope that makes sense. So, stress, it makes us feel disconnected, makes us feel scattered, makes us feel ungrounded. There's a lot of pressure on folks today, and I'm sure people in the past felt the same way. Today it's a little different because we have so much information, we have so much connectivity. We can see, we're on these 12, it's not even 24 hours anymore. We're on these 12-hour news cycles, and there's so much going on, or seemingly so much going on in our lives. Staying grounded, though, is one way to meet challenging times. And we'll talk about what that means. It's key to maintaining your peace, your calm, your clarity, your focus, staying grounded. Today, we're going to explore a solution that lies in the understanding of knowing your true self. And I'm defining your true self as your God self. Okay, so when I say true self, what I mean is your God self. Where does that come from? That comes from the idea of purpose of life. My understanding and my belief in terms of why we are here in terms of our purpose is self-realization, meaning that this play that we're all a part of, at some point we come to the understanding and realization of who we are, and who we are is really God. And so understanding that as we're going through these scenarios and these different life experiments and different life, conditions and environments, if we can maintain the viewpoint of the true self as opposed to who many of us believe we are, Tom, Joe, Mary, Jane, we can have a different relationship with our problems, a different relationship with our environment. We can see it from a distance instead of being so attached to it, creating a lot of stress. So, our true self, as opposed to, this false 3D ego based self that many of us identify with. So, understanding your true self, i.e., your God self, is the key to navigating and negotiating around stressful situations with greater ease and greater resilience. The true self represents the core of who you really, really are. It's your higher self, it's your divine nature, and it's connected with, here's what you're going to love, it's connected with infinite wisdom, with infinite peace and strength. So, this is very much unlike your outer self, the outer man, which we talked about before, which can be influenced by fear and doubt and external pressures and stimuli. Your God self remains calm and centered no matter what the challenges that are facing you, what challenges may arise. That's a real power, and that's the real solution today, is being able to delve into that inner man, the God self, and you can separate yourself from activities that are taking place in the external world. They can seem less important, not less important because the situation is less important, but because you have a different vantage, a different perspective, you're looking from a different lens. It has a tendency to change the emotional feeling around a particular situation that you're very attached to. So when you connect with your true self, you can gain access to a deeper sense of inner peace and clarity. So we're going to have challenges, we're going to have situations, but I think we will all agree that it would be preferable if we could go through these situations and these challenges with a level of understanding, a level of peace, and a level of calm. So you recognize that stress is temporary, right? It's beneficial to realize that stress, situations, circumstances, whether it feels like it's going on forever or not, which I can attest to, it really is ebbs and flows. It is all temporary. It is a temporary external condition. It is not a reflection of your true identity. It is not a reflection of your true identity. So instead of reacting, to stress with fear and anxiety and things like that, your God self, the inner self, can empower you to respond from a place of calm, a place of peace, a place of knowing that you have the strength and you have the wisdom to overcome whatever situation that is, ahead of you. That's very important to understand. So align yourself. The solution again is to align yourself. First of all, understanding who your true self is, and then aligning yourself with your true self. This is a practice. This is, if you've never heard this before, it certainly is going to be a practice. If you've even heard it before, then you know that you have to continually remind yourself of who you are. It's very easy to get distracted. It is very easy to succumb to news headlines, social media posts, comments from people, particularly people who are close to you. And what does that do? That brings you into the 3D environment. That brings you into this environment, and you begin to interact with people as if you are just a person. I like to say, I read a book a while ago that really turned the tide for me as it relates to switching from religion to spirituality, and that was The Master Key by Charles Haanel. And one of the things that he talked about there is being able to live your life with a different perspective, the perspective of the big I instead of the little me, the perspective of the big I instead of the little me. That is a life-changing perspective. That lens, if you can keep it in front of you, has a very different view than the little me. Just think about it. If you are a parent, I don't know if you've ever done this before, but I have grandkids at this point. And one day I was talking to my grandson. I happened to sit on his stool, which was very low to the ground because he's only one. And when I was sitting there, I noticed I was only still about an inch or two taller than him. But I noticed the perspective of a 1-year-old was very, very different from my perspective as a 50-year-old. I'm 6 foot, a little over 6 foot tall. He's maybe a foot. So the perspective is very different. It's very, very different. And things that may look scary to him, like our dogs or, just certain household things, they look, they don't look scary at all to me, but I'm looking from a different perspective. And my point in saying that is, if you're looking through the lens and the perspective of the creator of your God self, it's going to look very different to you through that lens as opposed to the little me. If you think you are only this flesh, you're only this body, you're going to feel limited. You're going to feel powerless in situations. You're going to feel like external stimuli has control over you. You're going to feel stress. And the whole point of this exercise today is to assist you in looking through a different lens. All right. So what happens when you're not grounded? Which is what happens when stress takes over. You lose your footing. You feel less certain of yourself. You lose confidence. You feel outside of yourself that something could happen to you that you don't desire. This is what stress is. Whatever the situation, this is the nature of stress. Something could potentially happen to you that's outside of your control and things that you don't desire. Otherwise, it would be a joyous thing. If something happened to you that you do desire, you're not going to stress. You would welcome it. What happens when you're not grounded? Stress affects everyone at some point. So grounding techniques have been used by spiritual gurus and indigenous cultures to help people stay connected to themselves and to their environment. When you face challenges, particularly in the fast-paced life what we have today, you can feel a mental overload. In other words, you don't feel as certain. You don't feel as confident. You don't feel like, you have your hands on things. Things are moving about, but you don't quite know what you're doing. You don't feel grounded. Let's take a look at how it could feel by looking at the same situation, but looking from a different lens as our true self. If you can connect with who you really are beneath the surface, you can stay anchored no matter how stressful the situation becomes. So, staying grounded is essential to manifestation, to higher consciousness, and to self-improvement. Stress can pull us away from our inner core. Making it difficult to manifest, making it difficult to grow spiritually, and even to feel at peace. And I think that's really the core. When we're stressed, we don't have peace. Those two things don't go together. Stress comes, peace goes. If we have peace, we're usually not stressed. So that's why understanding your true self, the nature of your true self, is important today, because your authentic inner being, this can help you stay anchored, and this can help you deal with stressful situations in a more calm and peaceful way. So here's the opportunity. The opportunity, of course, is knowing our true authentic selves. When you understand who the true self is, you become more resilient to stress. This connection helps you to handle life challenges without being shaken by external stimuli or external situations. Here's an example. So, when you're faced with a difficult situation at work, let's say, instead of feeling overwhelmed, you remind yourself of your true worth, of your true value. That your true worth is not defined by external events. By staying connected to your true self, you can remain calm and you can make better decisions. Okay? You don't want to make a decision from a place of fear, a place of stress, a place that is not calm. It's not going to be the best decision. I've done that. I'm sure we all have. As opposed to making a decision from a place of calm, then you feel more confident in that decision. Understanding the true self is the best solution. So, how do you do that? And how do you stay connected with the true self? Your true self is part of you that's the part of you that's not affected by the stress. Your true self can let go and not be reactive. You're going to be in your outer self, in your outer man, meaning you can be reactive and emotional. But your true self is none of that. You can let go of the reactivity, the anxiety. You won't be anxious in your mind, and you can tap into the wisdom and the calm. So just think about it like this. If you're tapped into Christ consciousness or the universal mind or your true self or whatever you decide to call it, your God self, you have access to the solution. To what solution? Well, what problem are you facing? Why are you stressed? To that solution. Be it relationship, work, health, or, whatever, you have access to the solution. Why? Because you're tapped into the universal mind. There's only one mind. I don't have time to go into all this today, but there's only mind. And so the solution is there. And if you are tapped into it, and if you are calm, if you're relaxed, and if you're able to hear the still small voice that can provide you with direction, you can navigate through whatever stressful situation there is. Now, it's not easy. If it was, everyone would be doing it. It can be done. I've done it. And I've also done the opposite. I've also made decisions out of fear, out of fright, and just, complete anxiety or desperation of wanting to be rid of a situation, of, just wanting to be out of a situation. And it usually exacerbates the situation because fear begets more fear. So here's the deal. The question is, okay, Kelly, I'm going to buy into this inner peace by, understanding and knowing my true self. But the fact of the matter is, I don't really know how to connect and understand my true self. How do I even get to that point? Glad you asked. This is what we're going to talk about today. This is going to be the call to action, and this is going to be your exercise moving forward, because continually doing this is what's going to propel you into a constant state of being your true self. And I'm telling you, every day you have to remind yourself, until you get to the point this is reflexive, you're going to have to remind yourself of who you are. Why? Because you have lived probably all of your life, if not most of your life, being who you think you are. Who's that? Your ego, your name, your sexuality, your race, maybe even your job title. That is not who you really are. So how do we get to understand and know our true selves? There are a couple ways, but I want you to hone in on at least two. Self-reflection is one. Meditation and mindfulness is two. Identifying your core values is three. Observing your reactions to change is four. Spending time alone is five. Seeking honest feedback is six. Paying attention to your passions is seven. Recognizing your limiting beliefs is 8. But here's what I want you to pay attention to. Number 9, listen to your intuition. Your intuition is the voice of your true self. That still small voice is your true self. I know it's so hard to train your mind now at 30, 40, 50, 60 years old to listen to this voice that you spent virtually your whole life almost ignoring. Maybe because we didn't really understand the value of it and what it really was. That still small voice that beckons to us and calls to us and tries to give us advice, that is who you really are. And that is your true self. And so pay attention to that gut feeling, that inner indulgement, that inner nudge that guides you towards certain choices, certain decisions, and things that you're trying to accomplish in your life, almost to the point where it sounds a little illogical. Because a lot of times the reason why we ignore these still small voices is because it's telling us to do things that we really don't want to do. If you're in a relationship, the small voice may be telling you this is not the relationship for you. You need to leave this person. You need to leave this relationship. And it's not something that you want to do. Maybe you know it's true, but you also know what's involved in leaving a relationship, starting over. And so you just opt to stay until, of course, eventually the relationship terminates itself, and then you end up leaving anyway. The voice could be telling you, you need to leave this corporate environment and strike out on your own. Start your own business. You know what's involved in that, the security or the feeling of security when it comes to biweekly paychecks as opposed to being an entrepreneur. And you're having to, work. If you don't, work, you don't eat and that sort of thing. It's a different feel. But be that as it may, it is the listening to the intuition, the still small voice, that's really going to help us to cultivate a relationship with our true self. The more we listen, the better off. And then number 10 is the second thing I really want you to do, and that is to practice self-compassion. So be kind and patient with yourself, understanding that your true self is a journey. This is the encouragement now. You're having a difficult time, in a stressful situation. Be compassionate to yourself, because there may not be anyone else being compassionate with you. There may not be anyone else in your circle that you can share the honest and the true story about how you feel and what's happening to you right now. So you have to be there for you. You need to be compassionate to yourself. So understanding your true self is a journey. Just know that it's not going to happen tomorrow. You can begin, but it's not going to be complete tomorrow. Self-compassion helps you to accept who you are without judgment, allowing your authentic self to shine. If you're like me, then you may have these internal mental lists that all have dates. And when you don't meet these requirements based on the date, then you tend to get down on yourself and you feel like, I should have accomplished this by now. I should have achieved this by now. I should be married by now. I should have lost the weight by now. I should have had my own business by now. Whatever it is that you have on your list that you haven't done, show some compassion to yourself. Show some grace to yourself. Take yourself out of that stressful situation. Give yourself a break and just listen to the intuitive part of yourself, your gut, and just ask the question, what are my next steps? If I was going to say the question you need to ask every day, do your mindfulness, do your meditation, it would be 1. What are my next steps? And who are we asking this question to? You're asking it to yourself, your true self, your higher self, that part of you that is the God self, that part that actually have access to the wisdom, to the knowledge, to the universal mind, and it knows the answers and knows the solutions, and it knows what it is that you want. The universe knows what you want. The universe is for you. The universe is for you. So ask every day, what are my next steps? Believe that you are your true self, that God part of you, and that there's not really a challenge that you cannot overcome. And I know because I've been in situations where it seems like, this is pretty permanent. or this feels really real, and this feels really difficult. I feel really alone. Been I've been in all those mental states. But what I find is that they're actually just states. It's a period of time where I felt a certain way, and eventually I felt differently later. So maybe that can help you as you're going through these situations in your life. Just know that there are ebbs and flows to every life. Everyone goes through them. This is not a personal attack against you. The stress will come, the stress will go, but you can manage it by changing the lens. Change the lens to the big I and not the little me. Look at the lens of your true higher self. That true self, your God self, has a different perspective on your life than you do. And if you want to diminish the stress, achieve your goals, choose the lens of the higher self. Thanks, guys, for hanging out with me today. I hope this was helpful. Please listen to the podcast again, because I know there's stuff that you need to listen to more than once in order to really get it. And challenge yourself to study this information. Don't just believe it firsthand. Go back, study the information, and if it checks out for you, begin your practice. Begin your practice of meditation and mindfulness and understanding, listening to your intuition, practicing self-compassion, and building a strong self-concept around your true self, which is your God self. Thank you guys so much. And don't forget to subscribe and to share our content. Thanks, guys.